So what we're going to be doing this afternoon is basically just making this little ERD diagram into a Django project. All right, so we're going to have two tables, users and posts. They're going to have a relationship between each other, which is a many to one. All right, so again, this is the models chapter of Django, and this is just understanding how relationships can be generated using Django code rather than MySQL Workbench. All right, so let's go ahead and get this going. So Django admin, admin start project, and let's call this thing blog project. So there's our blog project. Oh, so I didn't know how to spell still, as you guys know. Great, so there's our blog project. We're going to go into that blog project. So we're sitting inside of our blog project now. Now we're going to make our directory apps, cd apps, touch init.py. Then we're going to go ahead and go and say, hey Django, why don't you go and make ourselves a app? And we're going to start an app. And let's call that app blogs. Great. And then we're going to go back up and start up Atom. All right. So in the extensions, as I kind of mentioned before, I already pip installed Django Extensions, and so I need to be able to use that later. So in settings.py, we're going to do the usual thing that we usually do, which is we're going to add apps.blogs, but we're also going to use the Django extensions. And so let's just take a quick look at that on GitHub. So Django extensions, click on it here, and it even tells us how to do it. Blam, Django extensions. So installed apps, Django extensions. Great. There it is. Cool. All right, so off we go. Now we're going into blogs. I'm really just going to be focused on the models part of the blogs. So we're going to cruise into models, and we're going to build out the models that we have there. So to build a model, guess what we do? We say class, whatever the class name we want to use. In this case, we're going to use user and messages, I believe I called it, even though it's a blog post, sorry. And it's going to extend from models, right? So we have to get models from somewhere, capital model. Now it's going to have a bunch of different elements inside of it. So first name, and these are going to be the different columns that you're going to have in your table. So first name, and that's going to be equal to models.char field, and it's going to have a char field, and that char field is going to have a max length of 45, for example. The last name is going to be a models.char field, max length of 45. We're going to have a password. It's going to have a models.char field, max length equals 100. Oops. And then we're going to have a created at, and this is going to have a models.datetime field. And these datetime fields have some awesome abilities, and those are this auto now, and then add equals true. And they also have just whenever you auto now, so it does it all the time. And this one's going to be updated at. Cool. So at this point, what we've done, I don't know why it does that all the time, but it does. We've made our users table. So we've got first name, last name, password, created at, and updated at. Now the tricky part, we've kind of already done tables. The tricky part is this relationship here. So we're going to do this thing for posts. We're going to make that table, and then we're going to build that last little bit. So I'm just going to copy this because a lot of it's the same or similar enough. So we call this thing posts, but models are generally singular. So it's our post model, and off we go. So we're going to have a title. We're going to have a message, and that message is going to be, instead of being a char field, it's a text field, and its max length is 1,000. Password it doesn't have. Our posts do not have passwords. We have created at and updated at. But what we do have is we have this other field, user ID. And user ID is going to equal models. And this is basically the equivalent of clicking on, man, it's really annoying. This guy, click on the thing that has many to 1. So it's going to be, we're about to click, foreign key. So that's the click. And then the second click is going to be user. So it's going to be a reference to this class here. And awesome. That's actually all we're doing. So at this point, we should be able to go and create migrations. So we don't have any migrations in here, so we need to do that. And then once we do that migration, we need to make the migration and then send the geese flying, run the migration. So let's do it. So Python manage py, make migrations, tell those geese where to go, and then Python manage py migrate. Cool. It's going to do a bunch of migrations, including sessions and blogs. Awesome. All right, so we've done that, and now I'm going to use that Django admin, our extension, to go ahead and make a visual image of this thing. All right, so going back over to Chrome, going back over to being able to do this, I'm just going to copy this line of code, which is basically going to make the ERD diagram so it's visually available to us. All right, so here it is. Run that piece of code. You may have to add a few more extensions like GraphViz and Dot to get this to work correctly for yourself. So again, this is kind of a bonus extension, but it's cool to play with, and so you can kind of see visual representations of things, and kind of an idea of using multiple apps. All right, so I ran that, and I got this new file that popped up, and here it is. So here's our session information, and so this basically gets stored in a local database. There's all our session stuff. So Django has this automatic user authorization called capital user, the same thing we need in this field. We're going to deal with that later as well. But here's the two fields that we created, post and user. And this is the equivalent looking thing as this guy and then the many-headed arrow. And the connection between those two is called user ID. Cool. So that's one of the cool things that Django Extensions can do. So, all right. So with that, I'm going to stop.